overall your swing time is close to 1100 milliseconds, 1.1 seconds. You need to shorten the swing. That is partially because your backswing is a bit slow. Always, if possible, keeping the backswing faster is better. Because the purpose of backswing is not just to bring the body to this position for the downswing, but actually what you do in the backswing affects the downswing motion. So I generally promote faster backswing. So you can go around here, 900 milliseconds. So you can shorten it by 0.2 milliseconds, 0.2 seconds. And then the club speed, it came out as 112.4. So it's close to about elite man's average. But considering your body size,
Yeah, it can be a lot faster.
yeah, this is a bit low. For your body height, if the speed is normalized to body height, you're below the man's average. So that means you need to increase the efficiency of your swing. But one thing I like is if you look at the club speed during the backswing, so it increases, it peaks here, right? And then coming down. And if you draw a line between the beginning of backswing and the top of backswing, the peak is located slightly the right side of the line. That's good. So instead of having in the middle here, you need to have a maximum speed toward the end of the backswing. Then you will have an active slowdown and then downswing. So that gives a positive effect. But since your backswing is a bit slow, so this is diminished. The effect of this is diminished. And this is the top view at impact here. This large rectangle, this is your swing plane. So in other words, your club head is moving slightly leftward or inward. And then this smaller rectangle is the hand motion plane. It's a lot more inward here. Because you're essentially, you just go to this position and then using the muscles, you try to pull it hard on the left side. So the swing plane is 1.4 degrees inward, but your hand motion plane is 8.3 degrees inward. So we see this direction gap here. So this is an inward direction gap because your hands are moving more inward than the club. Generally, when you have this, then you tend to show the so-called spiral swing pattern. So if we go to this view here, so this is aligned along the swing plane. So this straight line is a swing plane calculated from the club head motion here. Then when you start the backswing, you're starting flat here. And then eventually you have to lift it up here. Then naturally this leads to this crossover alignment. Although the swing is backswing is not large, so it does not really go down this way. But the way I classify this is that, so this is the swing plane here. This is how much the hands deviate. This is how much the club head deviates. If the club head deviates a lot more than the hands, it's a crossover alignment. So even though this club is still not passing this vertical line here, but still this is crossover alignment. This naturally leads to a pulling here.
Yes.
Because the club head is located a bit higher here, relative to the swing plane. The hands are here. When hands comes down here, then you have the club head over there. You cannot really control this. So what happens is, in order to bring this down, your hands are traveling inward. So still this is a crossover alignment. Okay? And generally, if you start backswing, if you start the backswing with this flat pad here, this is not a good idea. So always try to move the club head either along the swing plane or above.
Above, yeah.
Yeah.
Along or above, not
So when you go flat, eventually you have to lift this up, and then this automatically promotes crossover alignment because you go here, and then you're not really lifting this up this way. So go here and then tend to raise the right arm, right elbow, then automatically club head goes that way. So what needs to happen is that it has to follow the swing plane and then go slide above and then go looping motion here. When that happens, this, let's see, which one is the club to mid hand. So this shows, the green line shows the degree of shallowing. One is when the pelvis rotation is completed. Two is top of backswing. So this phase is called the transition phase, but literally you have no shallowing here. But actually, in this phase, during the transition phase, you need to have a good amount of shallowing, then you can come a bit flatter. So instead of introducing a lot of shallowing during the downswing, first you need to have, during the transition phase, you shallow this, then you can easily come down, along the swing plane. And also, so your swing plane came out as on the average, the slope is on the average 50.7 degrees. This is a bit steep. The slope is proportional to your height, but you tend to keep the ball a bit closer to your body. Your body is more upright here. So I was a bit surprised when I saw your ball position, considering your body size. You can reach out a bit more. So when you reach out more, when you put the ball more away from your body, or you move away from the ball, then upper body has to lean a bit more here, right? Then the upper body becomes almost perpendicular to the swing plane like this.
Yeah.
So I think that this is one thing you need to experiment. So intentionally change the ball position relative to your foot, and then try different positions, see which one gives better for you. Currently, you are accustomed to this position here, but try a bit put this a bit farther away from your foot and see how it goes. So, and then also this shows that your backswing is really short, small here. So you're going about here. Considering your overall swing time is close to 1100 milliseconds, that's a bit too long. And then your backswing is small. That means you have really slow backswing.
Yes.
Yeah. And then from this, so basically you're going to this position, and then probably in your image, the main goal in the backswing is just to bring it here, because you try to pull it hard in the downswing. So you're putting a lot of effort in the downswing. But if you have a faster backswing, then the body has a momentum. With the momentum, you have a good wind-up at the end. When you have good wind-up, then these muscles here, which are responsible for rotation in this direction, the muscles will be elongated. So what happens is always when we move in one direction, we initially have acceleration, then followed by deceleration. So when you have a faster motion, active motion, then it has to be decelerated. That's done by the muscles which are responsible for rotation in this direction.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So they're pulling, so that the body is rotating this way, but it's pulling here, so it slows down. In other words, when you have active motion and the active deceleration, then you are already engaging the muscles, those muscles you will use in the downswing.
Right.
The muscles are elongated, and then once the downswing starts, then they will be shortened. So this is called the stretch shortening cycle. So when we use the muscles in the stretch shortening cycle fashion, then that's the ideal way of using the muscles. Your muscles can generate a lot more force.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So within the muscle, we have many contracting units called the motor units. But by recruiting fewer number of motor units, you can still generate the more force. But then you can use the muscles for long. When you play for 4 consecutive days, then the muscles will you'll be able to use the muscles without exhausting them quickly. Yeah. When you use it in the stretch shortening cycle. that means you need to have a little of ballistic action and coming down here. But if you just bring it here and then try to pull it hard in the downswing, then you lose that opportunity.
That makes sense.
So, and then at the top here, your club head is deviated this much from the swing plane. So let's call it a positive deviation. So that means club head is located above the swing plane. Now, on the way down, so it comes toward the swing plane here. In the follow through, the club head goes slightly below the swing plane here. So then, by the time you reach this position, it's almost on the swing plane here. So this is called the spiral swing, because the shape, club head pad looks like it's a spiral shape here. And then there are two more patterns. One is called the planar. So positive deviation at the top, and then nice planar motion here, and then it goes above the swing plane reasonably. So these are reasonably balanced here. It's called the planar swing pattern. And then there's another one called the reverse spiral. So it's opposite to this. So when you intentionally lay off the club quite a bit, the club head drops, and then on the way down here, the club head goes below the swing plane. So it's negative deviation. Then after that, you have to flip high here. Then the club head goes way above the swing plane. So negative deviation here, severe positive deviation in the follow through. So it's exactly the opposite trend. And then, so when we see the spiral swing pattern, that means you keep pulling the arms and club in the downswing. That's why your hands are traveling inward.
Right.
So your hands are traveling inward more than the club head. But that's why you have the spiral swing pattern.
Okay, that makes sense.
So then when you activate the muscles early, here, then you can develop good speed on the way down here, and then using the speed just to throw.
It's really less.
Yeah. But when you drag here, then you're relying on your muscles.
Right.
And then even at impact, you're probably in this position here.
Yeah.
Your hands are leading quite a bit here. Keep dragging here instead of letting it go.
Letting go. Speed.
In order to generate good speed, you have to let the club head go.
Right. I don't feel like
Because at some point, the club head should catch up, and then it has to go ahead of the hands. But if you keep dragging like this, keep dragging with the muscles, then you're not really letting the club head go.
no.
So the ideal way of using the body is that on the way down, initially you use the body and start the downswing, accelerate the body, and then at some point, body starts slowing down, and then you're throwing the club.
Right.
So that way you can maximize the club speed. And in that, your wrist angular velocity is really important, because the wrist motion determines, and wrist and the forearm motion, this is included here. But what happens at the wrist determines how much momentum you transfer from the body to the club.
Right.
So generally, in the downswing, first we have to develop good momentum of the whole body, particularly the body here. The club is not moving that much, but generate good the body momentum, and then that momentum should be transferred to the club. In that process, the body slows down, the club further accelerates.
Right.
And then there we have to use the wrist motion. And then when you have good wrist motion, then the club head speed increases rapidly during the later part of the downswing.
Right.
So how much speed you can generate, that depends on how much wrist angular velocity you can generate. But if your hands are dragging here, ahead of the club head, you cannot do this.
Yes. Right. That makes sense. That's what it feels like.
And then center of mass motion here. The red line is the whole body center of mass. And then the green is the pelvis center of mass. The whole body center of mass pattern looks reasonable. So the center of mass reaches the high point here. So this is the high point here. The red line is the whole body center of mass. This is the high point when your pelvis rotation is completed. And then the low point is here when the club is vertical in the frontal view. So the center of mass motion looks reasonable. But the pelvis is going down and moving away quite a bit here. But instead, have initial away motion, then drop the pelvis here mainly, and then move toward and go up here. So you keep moving the pelvis in the away direction until this point, until the pelvis rotation is completed here. So during the backswing, as the pelvis rotates, you tend to keep moving the pelvis in the away direction.
It needs to come back left towards the target.
So about here, when the lead arm is parallel to the ground in the backswing, the club points this way here. This is when you typically start the toward motion here.
Right. That's what I've heard.
But just shift away and then drop it and then move toward instead of keep moving away here. But this should be okay. I think this is not a major issue here. Now here's the actual pelvis motion. And then the lower one shows the rotational motion of the pelvis. And the red line is rotation here. And then, so it starts rotating, keeps rotating, and up to this point here. And then the slope slightly changes here. But that means you have a two-stage motion. It's not too bad. Some people just go here and then the slope changes quite a bit. But in your case, a subtle change in slope. So about here, there's a subtle change in motion. So from this position, so up to this position, from here to here, this is like one rotation here. And then after that, pelvis rotation, so the slope changes here.
Right.
But typically when you have a good connected rotation, so backswing to downswing, then this will continuously increase all the way to this point here. You have slight two-stage motion there. The blue line is the lateral tilt of the pelvis. The pattern looks reasonable, so it keeps going down. That means the left side is lower than the right side. It's called the left tilt during the backswing. And then, so this is when you have the most lateral tilt, left tilt here. So from that point on, the pelvis again goes in the opposite direction. And at impact, your left hip joint is higher than the right. So this pattern is reasonable. And then the green line shows this motion here. The pelvis moves, it tilts forward in the backward direction. This is reasonable. And then, here. This one shows the translational motion of the pelvis. So the green line is away and the toward motion here. The red one is a forward backward motion. And the blue is a up and down motion. So first, if you look at the blue, it goes down, and then again you see change in slope here. Change in slope here. So something is happening here. So you have almost a two-stage backswing motion instead of having one continuous motion all the way to the top of backswing. So again, we can see that this up and down in the up and down motion pattern here. Now, the pelvis keeps from here. Pelvis keeps moving away up to this point, and then start moving toward. But for the whole body center of mass, it moves it starts moving toward the target about here for the whole body center of mass. But for the pelvis, the toward motion starts a bit earlier here. Goes down here, and then it returns. That's called the recentering. So pelvis goes initially away and then shows a recentering motion. Then it keeps moving. As the pelvis rotates toward the target, it keeps moving toward the target. So the green line more should be this way and then coming back here and then keep going here.
Right.
But you keep moving the pelvis away,
Yeah.
so you need to initiate the toward motion of the pelvis a bit early.
Sooner, yeah.
And then, but the main thing is the red line here. The red line shows forward backward motion, and then so initially you have slight backward motion, and then it's moving forward, and then it moves backward quite a bit here. So in the downswing, you have a lot of backward motion. What that means is, in order for the pelvis to move backward, you're not moving the whole body back, then you will fall. So what happens is, so your upper body should lean forward, then pelvis can go backward. So you probably have this tendency here. So let's see. You see, in order to pull this down, yeah. So that means, so when that happens, pelvis has to move backward. That's why.
Standing further away from it probably would help with also getting in.
So when you start from a more forward lean position, then you don't have to lean more. So from this here, this is actually, in a sense, your strategy because you want to pull it in the downswing. So you keep a bit the upright position, and then from there, you try to pull it down.
Yeah. Right. That makes sense.
And pretty much maintain this axis here up to this point, and then when we look at the thorax pattern here, the green line shows the degree of lean, and then so from here to here, pretty much you maintain the lean angle, but after that, lean angle increases. So it's going down, but then the magnitude increases. That means you keep
Down.
going down. Yeah, that line shows that pattern. But so again, because of that, your pelvis central mass moves backward here quite a bit. So this is what I see here. And then that's your swing characteristics here. And then the X factor. So again, it shows a slight change in the slope here at this point. So we see this is consistently. And it's mainly coming from the thorax motion here. So thorax accelerates and decelerates to this point, and then the slope changes from here. So you have a phase of hesitation here. If the backswing is relatively short, faster motion, then you just go here and then here. But when you have too much time, then usually what happens is when we have too much time, then we don't gradually decelerate all the way consistently, but rather we quickly decelerate and then stay there for a while here. So imagine the first generation computer game was breaking blocks. Yeah, here, and then the ball is moving like this, and you move the pedal. And then when the ball is moving slowly, this is actually difficult because now you have many choices here. Either you just stay there for a while and then wait until this comes down here, then quickly move here. Then if you have this much time, you don't do much here, and then quickly accelerate. Or, from this motion, you know that it will eventually deflect to this side here, right? Then you already go there and wait until it comes. Then you have an early acceleration, but then you have a period of hesitation there. But when the ball is moving reasonably fast, then your motion organizes really well. So acceleration, deceleration, then like this. But if it's too fast, then obviously you don't have enough time to quickly move. But so when we have when the motion is too slow, then we have the issue of either having early acceleration a little bit and then long period of hesitation here, or you have a late initiation of the acceleration with the initial hesitation here. That comes from a slow motion. So that's what we can see here.
That makes sense.
If this is one faster motion, then from here to here it will be a continuous motion. Then you don't have this change in slope of the green line here. Even the red line here shows a slight change here. So the peaks occur early. These are angular velocities of the pelvis and the thorax. During the backswing, they reach peak angular velocities early, and then they have a lot of time here. These two body parts have a lot of time here.
Yeah.
Then hesitation, a period of hesitation.
Right.
Yeah, that's why you have this change in X factor. So initially we have fast pace separation, then that changes a little bit, but overall it's a continuous here. So, but we again see a change in the motion here. So during the backswing you have almost two-stage motion there.
Right.
But then here's the kinematic sequences. Kinematic sequences basically show the rotational motion of the body. Okay, so angular velocity of the body. And then we can have three sequences: the backswing sequence, the transition sequence, and the downswing sequence. First, the backswing sequence. These are based on the peak angular velocities, the timings of peak angular velocities. So first, the pelvis, thorax reaches peak angular velocity about here. And the slide after that, the blue line becomes a maximum here. That's the shoulders. Gray is the arms. And then this is the club here. So generally, we have a partial central to peripheral sequence. So the pelvis and the thorax reaches peak angular velocity first, and then slightly after that, the shoulders, and then the arms and the club. So this sequence is the best you can get. So you cannot have completely separated the backswing sequence. So usually, the pelvis and the shoulders, they have generally at the same time, the same timing, and then slightly after that, the shoulders. So the backswing sequence is okay. But the problem is that these are happening too early.
Right.
It's because, again, you have a lot of time here. So then the shoulder slightly after that, and then the arms, and then the club here. But this timing is too early.
Right.
So you have initial quick motion up to this point, and then you have a slow motion here. That this causes a sort of a disconnect between the early part of backswing and then the downswing. And then the transition sequence here is happening between end of pelvis rotation to top of backswing. So from the pelvis transition point to the club transition point, that's the transition phase. And then if we blow it up a little bit here, then you can see that your pelvis and thorax are pretty much transitioning at the same time here. And then the rest are slightly separated here in the transition phase. It's because in your image, your goal for the backswing is just to reach this position and then pull it. So the pelvis and thorax are
Not separated.
rotating at the same time. But in order to separate this, either you keep here and then have intentional early pelvis motion, or the best way to do that is actually using the momentum of the body. When you have active motion, because of this momentum, your shoulder tends to keep going this way, but you are slowing down the pelvis, and then eventually pelvis rotation changes the direction. Then the muscles are connecting here, they will pull the upper body, then eventually they will slow down. So the pelvis motion will affect the thorax motion will affect the shoulders gradually, so you have a sequential transition. So what I expect in the transition phase is fully sequential transition. So the tendency here is a clustered transition between the thorax and the pelvis. That means you go here and then try to quickly come down together.
Yeah, that's correct.
Because of inertia, when these bodies try to turn this way, then they were slightly behind. So we have separation here, but this basically suggests that you go here and then ease and then try to pull it at once. In the downswing, so the timing is okay. For the pelvis here, the pelvis reaches peak angular velocity about here. And then, so you have peak angular velocity of the thorax here. The shoulder reaches peak angular velocity a bit later here, but the arms here. So generally, the body rotates with the highest angular velocity around here. But once you pass this point, body slows down and the club further accelerates. Now, however, the pelvis, for example, pelvis peak is a bit low. So you have to generate faster rotation of the body. And then from here to an impact, you have to lose a lot of velocity here, particularly pelvis and the arms here. But pelvis is not losing that much velocity here because you keep pulling all the way. Okay, normally if this goes higher up and then it decreases quite a bit,
It needs to decrease more.
then you can have faster rotation of the upper body here. But the pelvis peak is not that large, and then it's not losing velocity that much. That means you keep moving the body, not the club.
Right.
So as a result, this pink line is the wrist motion here, which actually combines both the wrist motion and the forearm motion here. So actually this gives a lot of motion here. But in your case, because you're just keep dragging here, you're not utilizing this that much. Okay. As a result, although you have down cocking here, so when the pink line is negative, that means a cocking. When the pink line goes positive, then it's an uncocking. So in the backswing, you have this cocking, and then you have another peak here. So once the downswing starts, you increase the cocking velocity a bit more. It's because the body is turning this way and then it's behind here. However, so the uncocking starts here. This is severely delayed. Okay? And then it's not going that high here. For your body size and muscle conditioning, this has to exceed this man's average here. When the wrist and the forearm angular velocity, if this goes higher, then this goes higher here. Ultimately, at the later stage of downswing, the club angular velocity is mainly determined by the wrist angular velocity. Here, wrist angular velocity means the wrist motion and the forearm supination here. But if you keep dragging here, then you cannot use this motion that way instead of letting it go. When you let it go, here you have a quick supination motion of the forearm here, where you can release it. But because you are just dragging it here, you cannot use the wrist that way. So in order to increase the clever speed, more than anything, you should be able to increase this here, then this goes up here. But for that, you have to use this motion to release the club instead of dragging. Then you have to change the pattern. Instead of keep pulling this all the way, you have to activate muscles early with this throw, let go instead of dragging all the way. So ultimately, that's your challenge, because you're so used to the current pattern, whether you'll be able to change it. But sometimes with an imaging of a drum located on your right side, about here, then on the way down, your goal is to hit the drum here. In order to hit the drum hard, then you have to activate the muscles early.
Yeah.
So when you have early activation of the muscle and then hit it, then that means you have a good acceleration. Then by the time your cleavage reaches about here, it has maximum speed. And then on this side, it's a slow down here. So it's deceleration phase, rather than putting a lot of effort on this side here.
Right.
Like when you wave your hand to stop a taxi, if you wave your hands after the taxi already passed by, then it has no meaning.
Right.
The impact is here, but putting a lot of effort on this side is a waste of energy.
Right.
You want to make sure that you have enough speed at the impact, but
Yeah.
but if you have too much effort on this side, then you're wasting a lot of energy. Rather, from here to here, this is a runway for a plane to take off, right? Then when you activate the muscles good here, then using this motion, you're generating good speed. And then after impact, you just let it go.
Right.
So then, by having the image of a drum here, try to hit the drum. Then also the swing plane becomes a bit, more squared instead of going inward, because you are early activating it and then using that speed and then let it go instead of pulling it in. So that's the main challenge you have, and let's kind of practice a little bit with the image of the drum on the right side.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing I see here. You need to develop this angular velocity more, and then lose the angular velocity quite a bit here, instead of keep pulling all the way here.
Right. Okay.
And then let's see how you interact with the ground here. So here you see 3 arrows. This is the force acting on the lead side. This shows the force acting on the trail side. And then this is the combined force here. And then at the beginning of the backswing, so you have slightly more force acting on the lead side here. And then the force becomes equal to each other. Around here, if you look at the red line here, the unit is body weight. So that means this is normalized to body weight. So you start with the one body weight. So when you just stand, then the ground reaction force and your body weight are equal to each other. But when you have an active push, you push the ground harder, then this goes up. If you push less, then the force goes below the body weight line here. It's called the unweighting. Yeah. So basically, in the vertical direction, we are interacting with the ground by pushing hard and then by unweighting. So we actually repeat push, unweight, push, unweight when you have continuous motion. So we have a slight active push here, but this is not enough. So in the backswing, at this stage, you have to use your right leg more actively here. But if your goal is just to bring this up to this position, then you're not using this. But you have to actually, initially at the beginning, use the body, and then by pushing this, you are generating this turn, then the peaks will be moving more toward the transition, right? Not initial quick motion. So you need to push more, and then also about here you should have a maximum force difference between these two sides here. So you should have a lot more force on this side, a lot less on this side. Then this will shift toward the trail foot more. But currently your center pressure position is about this is center about 50% here. Then this will be 25, about 30%. You need to shift this more to the right. But that means you'll see more difference between the two. Later you can have a slight decrease this difference, but in your case you are actually increasing the difference more later. Now, so the unweighting phase starts about here. You have this unweighting going on here. And then, now this is top of action. at the top of action, you have this certain dip in the force here. So this is another unweighting here. So initially this unweighting is going on here, and then you have another phase of unweighting here. And then this is the maximum unweighting here. But this should be continuous. Continuous, and then maximum unweighting has to occur earlier, about here. In other words, you have to generate maximum unweighting using this push. After good push, you have a good unweighting. So unless you push hard here, you cannot have a good unweighting here. So for that unweighting, you have to have active push and then turn, then you can drop this side. Push and then drop and then kick. So you have this rhythm, kick. Up and down and up here. Okay? In order to be able to drop the body down, it's more lowering the left side, but you have to have a good push from the right side. Push. This will give you a good turn, and then also the hip is moving upward as well. Push with that, and then because you pushed enough, then you will have unweighting, and that will allow the body to drop here. So push and then let it down, and then kick here. Then you have a continuous unweighting all the way to a top of backswing. So at top of backswing, you'll see a lot more unweighting here. But because your backswing is slow, particularly you have a hesitation, a phase of hesitation from pretty much here to top of backswing. That's why the unweighting is not that much. Then you know that you have to unweight so that you can push the ground in the downswing. So you are starting the unweighting again here. So this causes a delayed timing here. And then with this, pretty much at the beginning of the downswing, you cannot do much. So then the lower one is so-called the moment time here. Moment time is the separation between this arrow. This force is sum of these two here, the net force. This and the red dot here. Red dot is the body center of mass. So this separation, this is called the moment time. So when you use a wrench, try to rotate something, then this distance is moment time. Your force is acting here. This center of rotation. So center of mass is the center of rotation. Because the ground reaction force is acting here, this distance is the moment time here. The reason why this is important is, if you multiply the moment time and the force here, that gives the torque. So you are generating this much torque using the ground in the frontal plane to generate rotation here. Then, this is when the pelvis rotation is completed. This force is passing near the center of mass here. So you have a short momentum. So at this stage, you don't have that much unweighting here. If you have more unweighting is pretty much along the vertical direction. So imagine if the tip of the arrow goes down here because of unweighting, then you will have a more inclination of the force arrow. Automatically, you will have longer momentum. So when you have at this stage, more unweighting, then this increases, momentum increases. But it's not that long here. And then this is top of action here. Now it's increasing. But when you have a maximum unweighting about here, then here you will have the longest momentum. But it's still here. It's still rising here because peak unweighting is a lot later. But at the top, you need more longer momentum here. And then now this is the top. This is during the downswing here. Now you have unweighting peak about here. Now the momentum is still increasing here, and then it reaches the longest momentum about here. This momentum is coming from the center of pressure moving toward the leader foot here. Okay? And then when you multiply these two, then you have this much torque generated here. Your maximum torque occurs here, okay, by using the best combination of force and the momentum here. So this is the elite man's average maximum. This is the elite man's average maximum. So this group includes professional players, college players, and some teaching professionals. So you go above the elite man's average maximum. However, it's rising and quickly decreasing here. So you have a really sharp peak here and coming down. What matters is the area under the curve. So from top of backswing to, let's say, here, the area under the curve. That's called the angular impulse. That gives the total amount of the torque acting. So it's an accumulated effect of torque exertion over time. We need to maximize that area, angular impulse. But because your torque is quickly decreasing,
It's not maximum.
yeah, that's why your body angular velocity is not that high,
Right.
particularly the pelvis angular velocity is. And then your maximum force here, about here, this is coming from this unrating here. So you have a hard push. And then after that, so this much torque is generated at the top, at maximum ground reaction force. After that, the force decreases rapidly here. And then momentum shortens quickly. The torque decreases quickly here. It's because already about here, the force is passing through your center of mass here. So at this stage still, you have to keep the center pressure close to the lead foot, and then it will pass this way here. So it still should give you some momentum, but now this is coming back toward the center here, and then you're losing the momentum. So really short momentum and not much torque here. And then, so you need to increase the backswing speed, give a bigger backswing, and also one piece backswing to the target position. And then you have to push the ground good with the trail leg here in the backswing. So when you have active trail foot action, then it will speed up the backswing motion. So naturally you will have less time in the backswing. So this is what you need. And then connect well the backswing to the downswing. So your transition shouldn't be just a quick motion and then go here and try to hold this down, but rather you have this more almost like a ballistic action here.
Right.
Good, wind up, and from there, let it go.
Right.
Then you'll be able to use the muscles a lot better at the earlier stage
Right.
than later. So that's
Yeah.
that's what you need to work on.
Yes.
Yeah, that way you can take advantage of your body size and then release the
Release. Yeah.
club instead of dragging it
Drag.
all the way.
Yeah. Yes.
So for that you have to practice this motion here,
Right.
using the pronation supination and then let it go, let it go, let it go.